Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening, Peter. You are 12 hours behind us. Hong, thank you for waking up so early. You are in New Zealand. And Danny, thank you for joining us from India. So it is my very good, much pleasure to have the responsibility to moderate this so important panel today. My name is Joyce Chau, representing amfori, which is an international business organization headquartered in Brussels, representing 2,400 member companies who are buyers, retailers, and trading companies. And most of the product resource is fashion product. And that's what it brought why I'm here today. And obviously, when you look at the bio data, you know why I'm the moderator, because I'm the only one who are good at asking questions, but not the experts to answer. So thank you for joining us today. We have a challenge. We are a bit behind the original schedule. We're supposed to have 90 minutes, so please make use of the time to focus, listen, and put your questions anytime during the session. And according to the plan, just one housekeeping thing to remind every one of you, to make sure everyone can get the accents of our speakers, I have suggested and kindly agreed by all our panelists today, the first 30 minutes will be presentation. We have a discipline for each of them, 5 minutes. And then, following those accents foot for thought, we will have some interactive question and answer session. We will reserve the last 30 to 35 minutes for you to ask questions. So if everything is clear, I would like to kickstart with this session, borrowing some figures, which is quite shocking, but not meant to be finger-pointing, to draw your attention why fashion materials matter. We all care, but why? According to an article, a report prepared by a Finnish scholar from Finland, from Aalto University, Dr. Kirsi Niemi-Mäki, published in April 2020. The environmental price of fast fashion on Nature Reviews. Chemical use. Textile industry uses over 15,000 different chemicals during the manufacturing process. Water. According to the statistics in 2015, total 79 billion cubic meters of water consumed in textile industry. In average, the estimation is when you produce 1 ton of textile, it can cost 200 tons of water. Carbon footprint. Textile generate the most greenhouse gases per unit. It can be ranged from 8 to 10%. Don't ask me how to calculate, I'm not the expert. However, quoting such shocking figures is just a reminder. It's not meant to be finger-pointing. We all wear clothes. We are all responsible. It shouldn't be the sole responsibility of the manufacturers or whoever trade to be responsible. That's why we need the panelists today to shorten our journey of learning, share solutions, but not just challenges. Working together, but not just competing. The biggest competitor we have is time. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker from New Zealand. It's not just because you are ahead of us, you start first, Hong. I know your heart is in Hong Kong and closely connected to Fashion Summit, according to your passion talk offline 2 weeks ago with other panelists. Because I invite Hong to speak first because they have done a very good survey and they have engaged hundreds of different brands from different countries, over 40 countries, to promote the adoption of preferred materials. So Hong, the floor is yours. I know you have prepared video and PowerPoint, very content-rich, but please observe 5 minutes. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Joyce. I would like to first thank Fashion Summit for inviting me and Textile Exchange to participate in this meaningful summit. I would first like to start with a video, and after that I will show a couple of slides, and I'll promise Joyce to keep it within 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Lorraine Pepper, and I'm co-founder and CEO of the Textile Exchange. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to share who we are and what we do. We're a mission-based organization, so our mission is to inspire and equip and accelerate the adoption of preferred materials in the textile value chain. It's about focusing on carbon reduction, soil health, water, and biodiversity as a part of our holistic approach. We envision a global textile industry that both protects and restores the environment while enhancing lives. Just a little bit about us by the numbers. We have over 500 members and 27,000 sites in 83 countries that have been certified to our 7 standards. It's great to have this level of interaction and engagement with the community. Our Climate Plus strategy, something that is driving us right now, there's an urgency to really protect and restore that environment, and we've created a 45% goal of greenhouse gas reductions. It's imperative that we take proactive action. And what does the plus mean? The plus is about partnership. And as you can see, it's about soil health, biodiversity, and water as we reduce the greenhouse gases. And here's our direction of travel and really the nuts and bolts of how we're going to get this done. It's moving away from the status quo, conventional fibers and materials that are chemically intensive and cause damage and harm, moving into improved, progressive, and advanced situations and systems where we're actually regenerating and restoring the environment as we're practicing regenerative, organic, and circular systems. Join us on our journey to Climate Plus. Help us realize the vision of healthy people and healthy planet. Thank you for your time.
So, as Lorraine mentioned, we would like to empower the industry to reduce carbon emission. So one of the ways is, as Joyce mentioned, we every year we make a preferred fiber and materials report with our members and other stakeholders. Next slide. So this report contains global production volumes, our standard-specific data, and various news. Next slide. So we cover a wide range of materials from, as you can see, natural fibers, man-made fibers, as well as animal fibers. Next slide. So here you see a screenshot of how our report looks like. You get a feel, and you see that you see that the global fiber production in 2020 is about 109 million metric tons. Next slide. So because of the time limitation, I've chosen 2 fibers to highlight. One is cotton and the other is polyester. So as you can see, for cotton, we've seen an increase of 6% in preferred cotton. In the next couple of slides, I will show you what we mean with preferred cotton. And with polyester, we see an increase of 1%. Next slide. So together with our stakeholders and members, we've defined what we call preferred fibers, preferred cotton. And here you can see. In our report, which you can find online on our website, you can see very detailed which particular method is used to define this. Next slide. So the total global recycled fiber production increased from 7.9 to 8.4 million metric tons. This equals a growth of 1% of our recycled PET compared with the global PET fiber market. Next slide. So we have, as Lorraine also mentioned, one of our activities is we own different standards for certification. And if you can see here, the number of sites has grown a lot in the last year. Next slide. So we've grown more than 70% in certified sites. Next slide. So in the report, we also have a couple of solutions. I will not use the time to highlight them here now, because I think during the panel discussion with our panelists, we can have very lively discussions as well. So next slide. So I'd like to thank you all and thank you, Joyce. I hand it back to Joyce, and I hope I kept it within the 5 minutes.
Yes, you are.
Good.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. I saved the questions after all our presenters have the chance to talk. That's the good reason for that, because otherwise, if we drag on questions and other speakers will have no chance to talk, it will be a waste of the opportunities. Thank you, Hong. Set a very good example. And next, we jump from New Zealand back to Hong Kong. So Karin, I know you're from the States, but you love Hong Kong so much and you are the experts, can speak fluent Mandarin. So today, in 5 minutes, please summarize the 35 years of efforts of your council, how to support U.S. cotton become sustainable. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I can tell you it's exciting to be live here. My first conference live in 18 months. It's really cool. So we're here today to talk about the future and how we all can make a difference. And I'm hearing some words that resonate. Science-based targets we just heard about. This is what I'm going to discuss today for our new effort, the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol, because it's all about data-driven sustainability, and it's systemized so that it connects with the needs to be a solution for brands and retailers, because I think this is where it's walking back from, is because ultimately the brands and retailers are driving this. And also because of the new legislation coming up. You know, it's on the horizon in Europe primarily, but around the world. So it's not just on the radar anymore. We have to make it a reality. And we clearly, everybody is singing from the same hymn sheet in this room. We need to do it together. So from a U.S. cotton perspective, I'll just give you a little snapshot of what we are doing, you know, for our part to make cotton continually improving for its sustainability footmark, as well as best practices. This is what our industry is all about. So we've been measuring ourselves. We've been self-auditing for, 70, 80 years. But in the last 35 years, we've used a system called Field to Market, and I'm sure some of you know that. It's to measure agricultural improvement. And so already, you know, I know the cotton industry is under attack very frequently about using a lot of resources, chemicals, water. Well, you know, we were doing our homework. So in the past 35 years, for example, we have been able to reduce water by 79%. So everything we're doing now is verifiable and measurable because we're working against goals and science-based goals, okay? So we're holding ourselves accountable, not just today, but tomorrow. So we extend those goals because our whole industry is rooted in continuous improvement. So we're stretching it. We want to do better. So this is what our program is all about. So in order for brands and retailers to get on board with this, because over the last few years, they've been coming to us saying, how can you help us with our supply chains? We really want to do better and make it traceable, trackable. So we came up with a system, the protocol. So we're setting a new standard for more sustainable cotton production. And this is one of the farmers I know. You know, our farmers are committing themselves. And that's the word I heard too, is a commitment. Our farmers are committed to joining the protocol, to self-audit so that all their cotton is in the system so that when it goes into the manufacturing process, it's already traceable and trackable from the farm. So we can do that, having two systems work together, which I'll tell you about. But right now, the protocol is the only sustainability program in the world with quantifiable goals and field data to back up continuous improvement and sustainability claims. So how do we do it? Robust data. The only thing, it's science. So let's get to the root of it because it's truly from the ground up, in our case, growing cotton. So as I mentioned, we work with Field to Market, and we have continuous improvement metrics we work with. And it's against these 6 metrics that we judge our performance and our progress. land use, soil carbon, soil conservation, water management, greenhouse gases, and energy use. And the farmers have to input the data so that year on year, season by season, we can verify their progress. And this is just an example of a diagram that we use. And so we want to get to that innermost diagram, because it's all about reducing inputs to the land. 16,000 farming families in the United States, generation to generation. That's their biggest asset, is the land. So they must have stewardship. They must safeguard it. So what we do is we have verification, third-party verification, and so it's very robust, and we have governance. Some of you in this room, your organizations are on our board of the protocol. And what does it get you? A transparent supply chain. And how do we do this? We start with permanent bale identification from the field, and once it goes into the system, then it's trackable. So through the whole system of vendors, the Trust Protocol member vendors, it goes right down to the brand and retailer members. So it's a tracking system. Now, this tracking system, together with TextileGenesis, and you'll hear from that later, makes a complete blockchain, and you can trace it. It's verifiable down to the article. So two powerful platforms together. So you come up with a transparency map where a brand and retailer can know where their article is from. So we have many brands on board, joining every day. And of course, our partners, most of my panel are in partnership with us and vice versa, Textile Exchange, Forum for the Future. And of course, we're all going in the same direction for the UN goals. And we make our pledge. So it provides brands and retailers the critical assurances they need to ensure the cotton element of their supply chain is more sustainably grown with reduced environmental and social risk. So with that, we have a little website if you want more information. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Karin. And if any one of you are interested on obtaining the materials, please do not hesitate to contact the organizer, and they will coordinate for you, because maybe different speakers have different preference. Thank you, Karin. And so now we come to Rex. Rex, you are the only one who really directly hands-on to touch the materials and create an innovative one. And please share with us in 5 minutes how your group and demonstrate by good example to create sustainable materials. Thank you.
Yes, okay. I will keep my promise to keep 5 minutes. So my name is Rex. Maybe some of you know me. I work for this company for many years. Basically, it's for technical marketing and development. So I lead the team for a lot of things, for technical support, education and training and development. Development means yarn, fabric, and garment development. So this is a little bit about myself. Maybe we can go to the company. So a little bit about Lenzing. Lenzing is an Austrian-based company. So we produce two main products. So one is about wood pulp. Another one is fibers. Fiber for textile, fiber for long woven. So we have 6 manufacturing plants in the world for fibers. So we have one more to come in Thailand next year, end of this year. And we have 2 wood pulp manufacturers in the world, and also one more to come next year in Brazil. So this is the whole setup of the company. And we have 3 generations of fibers. So Lenzing Visco, Lenzing Modal, and Lenzing Lyocell. So Tencel is our brand for the textile. Lyocell is the brand for the long woven. So all the fiber is made from the wood, and all the wood is come from managed forests. That means FSC or PEFC. So I think I would like to share this is a kind of a good practice in here. So this is the core of Lenzing. So it's a kind of a biorefinery concept. So we have fully utilized the wood by 100% as a material for fibers. This is one part, and also as a kind of refinery product. that means Xyrox and sodium caustic soda. This is a biorefinery product. This is the second part. And the last part is about the supply energy. So we burn the black liquor as a kind of energy for our plant production. So we fully utilize the wood. So this is what we call a biorefinery concept, is the core for Lenzing. And now maybe we shift a little bit on the sustainability strategy, because this strategy brings us today. Not only talk, we also walk through the sustainability concept. So our sustainability concept is very simple: be more sustainability. So this is the key concept. But in content-wise, it's naturally positive. So we have three basic principles. One principle is about partnership with partnering with for the change, meaning that because during that climate change, we have a lot of challenge, and that kind of challenge actually we cannot solve by ourselves. So we need to working hand in hand, work together to solve the problem, set the highest standard of the sustainability and more transparency. So this is the way we need to work through to solve the problem and challenge during the climate change. And the second is about green the value chain, meaning that whenever or whoever you purchase a kind of garment made from Lenzing fibers, so already that kind of fibers is a kind of renewable resources, renewable material, and because this is made from wood and also managed forests. And production-wise, actually is a kind of responsible production, because we take care of the water and also minimize the fossil fuels energy. So this is the second core of second principle. And the last is about the circular economy. So circular economy basically is about the biorefinery concept. And recently we also invent a kind of refiber technology. So we use a kind of cotton scrap as a kind of fiber raw material into our fiber production. So this is our three principles. Of course, we have several focus over there, but I think the time is limited. I don't want to cover it. And the last thing, I think the key challenge for Lenzing or for all over the world is about, because whenever you purchase a kind of so-called sustainable material or sustainable garment, how can you prove it? I think this is the key. So I think maybe if we have time, we can talk about how Lenzing can contribute on that kind of solution, on traceability and transparency.
Thank you, Rex. And we will have a chance to ask some questions so that you can elaborate your strategy better. And last but not least, Peter, and I know you have prepared a slide. The world is fair. Last time I talked to you, it was my 9:30 p.m. So now it's your turn to stay awake late in the evening. I have to admit, when we read Peter's PowerPoint, the most eye-catching one is the line. We're the same molecules for life. You know, when he talked about from trash to treasure, it sounds very scientific. But I have to admit, the line he picked for this topic sounds very romantic. So can you share your business, how to make the balance between science and romance? Thank you.
That's quite a setup. Thank you, Joyce, and thank you, Fashion Summit, for having me today. My name is Peter Majeranowski. I'm the CEO and founder of Circ. We're a US-based technology company that's scaling a solution for recycling end-of-use textiles. Next slide. And we're doing that because we believe that we can wear the same molecules for life. We make 100 billion garments a year. And so there's enough clothing out there to keep making all the clothing we'll ever need through a circular system. Next slide. And so it's a very bold goal to do that. And we know we need partners to do that. And so we're very proud of the folks that have already joined us on our journey. Some of them are here today. Thank you. And we hope to add more, because this really will take a full industry effort. Next slide. And we need to do this because, as we heard from all the stats before this presentation, participation, the world really is hanging on by a thread. We're using as a planet about 1.7x is worth of Earth's resources, which is clearly not sustainable. Next slide. So that problem is not going to get easier when you look at demographics. By the end of this decade, we're adding nearly 1 billion more people. But what's more compelling is the middle class is fortunately growing as more people come out of poverty, but it also means increased spending power, which results in about 30% more clothing per person. And the net effect of that is we're going to have even more textiles going to landfill or incineration. But when I put my technology lens on that, I see that as a huge opportunity because those molecules, that cellulose that Lenzing uses, has a tremendous amount of value that we can capture and keep circulating through our economy. Next slide. And so talking about just the plastic, the polyester and the other synthetics that we're going to be using, by 2030, it's estimated to be about 107 million tons. Is that a big number? Yes, but how do you get your head around that? Next slide. So that's equivalent of weight of about 1 million Boeing 757 commercial airline jets. That's a big number too, but how do you conceptualize that? Well, if you take all the commercial aircraft around the world, whether that's a commuter jet or Airbus or jumbo Boeing jet, they're about 25,000. So if you took all those planes that are in commercial operation and weighed them, they'd still be less than 1% of the plastics that will be going into textiles in 2030. Next slide, please. That's a whole lot of plastic. Next slide. And so we need solutions because this is not sustainable. This is going to cause shortages, increased pricing. How are we going to continue to meet the demands? And what's fantastic is that a lot of brands are making very bold goals for themselves and for the industry, and solutions are needed. And I picked these brands at random. We could have probably put another 5 slides of very good, ambitious goals that are out there. Next slide. And so often what you see here is that some of those goals are met by using rPET or recycled PET coming from bottles. But bottles alone can't solve that problem just because we use about 2.5 times more PET for making textiles than we do for bottles. So even if we recycled all the bottles magically that we used, it wouldn't be enough. And you're starting to see that pricing pressure. Boston Consulting Group expects that by 2024, we're going to have a 45% gap in the demand for rPET. So really a textile recycling solution is needed. Next slide. And that's where we come in. And we have a solution that can take end-of-use textiles. It can be post-consumer, pre-consumer, post-industrial, cotton, polyester, or polycotton blends. It doesn't matter what ratio. We return both of those fractions, the polyester and the cotton, back into the circular textile economy. And we do it in the form of raw materials. That would be cellulose, which comes replacement for tree pulp, and then the monomers for making polyester so we can repolymerize and make virgin-like polyester. And so we're looking for supply chain partners that are willing to use drop-in replacements from the natural resources that are coming from nature, from virgin sources, and instead use them from circular sources that come from end-of-life textiles. Next slide. And so as a company, as a young tech company, we get very motivated by our goal, which we call internally 10-10-100, that by 2030, we want to have recycled 10 billion garments. That's roughly 10% of annual production, and that would save 100 million trees. And according to our LCA, that's about an 80% greenhouse gas emissions savings over using virgin. Next slide. So thank you again for having us, and I hope that you all join me on our journey because this is such an important thing for our planet and for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So this is our first round of applause to we are being on time. Thank you very much. And now that's a good sign to prove that you are not sleeping because I start to receive questions. But in order to better consolidate those questions, please put more so that we can have the last part of this panel discussion involve yours and we get answers from the panelists. To start with, I do have some questions generating from listening the presentation from each of you. So Hong, back to you. And you know, many people is like us hate reading. Your 118 pages report has killed me a lot of, confidence in understanding the topic. So how can you convince people from not understanding the subject and then understanding how want to do it but don't know how to do it, and know how to do it but do not do it right? So can you just highlight one or two priority findings among all those shocking ones you have presented to us through the report, and then demonstrate one example, how can your organization help people can work towards and resolve those challenges, the findings from your report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Well, the good thing is we do have an executive summary. So that's 3-4 pages.
Yes, that's what I finished. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Well, the report itself is like 118 pages.
Yes, 118, yes.
Yeah, so it looks actually, the report, what it does is look back to what materials has been used the last years. So my hope is, of course, that one day we will not need to make this report anymore, because 100% of materials we use is sustainable. How do we get there? It's a journey, as we heard today. And personally, I think we should start at a young age, educating the next generation of consumers as well as designers with what is sustainability in the textile industry. So I was pleased to see that yesterday during the panel discussions, there were topics about design, consumer engagement, and education. What I would remind our guests today is that we have, as you've seen in the slides, we have seen an increase in the certified sites, which means the supply chain is working very hard to get certified, to get on board. But the preferable fibers still represent less than 1% of the global fiber market. So as an example, the overall, less than 0.5% of the global fiber market was from pre or post-consumer textiles in 2020. So I think we can and must do better. So the ways to get involved is Textile Exchange has many ways to support the industry with roundtables, expert groups, and you can also adopt our standards or become a member. So I would like to encourage you all, if you haven't done already, visit our website and just get involved.
Thank you. And indeed, this will lead to my questions to Karin too, because offline when I talked to Karin and being a counsel for more than 3 decades of work, and you have a very positive suggestion of industry alignments. So can you elaborate further, what does it mean? And what actions would you like to see after today, maybe at least some new actions can be taken in the industry? Thank you.
Great. Well, when preparing for this forum, it just came into my mind, but industry alignment, whatever phrase. And then speaking with a lot of you over the last day or two, I realized, well, a lot of you are partnering with each other. That's certainly a big part of it. And I think being part of the solution, going into streamlining toward one direction is really what is needed. A more visionary approach about collaboration, communication, coordination. But in reality, how can we actually make it happen? And this is the challenge. So, I mean, I'm talking with people, we're talking with mills, manufacturers all the time, and brands and retailers, and I see some of the headwinds, challenges ahead of building a stable, sustainable, and a systemized supply chain. And I think it really comes down to what's going on in the supply chain, right? Because if you're working with a material that is already circular, like cotton is because it's renewable, it's much easier to develop your own circular supply chain system, something like that. So I think we need emboldened and visionary leadership in our industry in order to make all of our aspirations happen and go for the solution that we need to combat climate change.
Thank you, Karin. And I can't agree more with Hong and Karin. And please count amfori in. I'm happy to engage our members from different countries in your initiative, and so that we can avoid duplication of efforts, better utilizing of resources and expertise. So, Rex, now back to you. You have a very interesting term, or your company defined your strategy is naturally positive, sustainability. Naturally positive. How difficult nowadays we're talking about naturally positive. So can you, in a nutshell, to share your lessons learned so that other people from the industry can avoid the painful experience you have and then better equipped for the future? Yeah. Who one challenge, how you overcome, and then can move on.
Okay, sure,
Thank
sure.
You.
Actually, we have quite a number of challenges. I can name a few. I think first of all is about the raw material, because that kind of raw material is limited. We need to ensure our production volume. So I think this is one of the facts. Another fact is that we need to fulfill our procurement standard. So actually, our procurement standard is very high. We are not allowed to use any endangered forest wood. I think this is one part. So that's why in the last year, we implement a kind of backward integration, meaning that we invest quite a lot on a kind of wood pulp and wood forest investment. So one of the examples is about Brazil. So this is one of the new setup. Another challenge is about production, because production, on one side, we need to fulfill the higher standard and increasing standard of the quality from the client, from the consumer. Another side, we need to fulfill the green standard. So this is a kind of dilemma we need to live with. But I think this is our task and our mission we need to cope with. But I think Lenzing is very good. He's very highly committed. They set the highest standard on that. So share with you in 2030, we will reduce CO2 by half based on the 2017 figures. So those are verified and proved by the SBT science-based target. And 2050 basically is zero. So by what kind of means? So of course we will reduce, optimize, and also we will try to offset. And the last thing is to see whether there is a kind of available or maybe ready to available technology coming to minimize our CO2 emission. So this is the second challenge. So far, I think it's quite on track. I think the third challenge is about the traceability and transparency. I think this is the most important part, because as a consumer, if I buy something more high value, claim as sustainability, claim as green, I will ask one question: how can we prove it? So in the past, maybe we can use a kind of traditional way to look through a kind of microscope to see the fiber length, to check the fiber finish, maybe check the Desitex. So this is the way, the traditional way we can do the shape. But I think this is not the kind of effective way to prove whether this is our fiber or not. So actually, we have a kind of a technology. We put the DNA into our fibers. So meaning that from fiber stage, from yarn, from fabric, and from garment stage, we can tell whether it is Lenzing fibers or not. So this is so we call the traceability. So on top of it, so we need to ensure every transaction is clean and clear. So that's why we work with TextileGenesis on the blockchain technology through the FiberCon to tell the transparency. So from unit to unit. So I think this is the way I can share with you of Lenzing about the challenge and how we go through it. So this is my share.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing your real-life experience. And I think Rex can be our next time moderator. He always drop a very good hint for me to ask another questions for Danny. So Danny, many people talk about blockchain, AI technologies. Can you just give a very real-life example, business case? How can we make a difference by adopting before and after the difference? Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Joyce. And here I would like to build upon what Rex Mox just explained. So of course, the best example that comes to my mind is what we are doing with Lenzing. So Lenzing has always been a pioneer in sustainability, and in the same way they have been a pioneer in adopting the blockchain technology to provide traceability to global brands around the world. So although they have the DNA verification, and to add on to that, they have adopted the TextileGenesis technology. What it does is creates another layer of traceability where each and every transaction and every step in transformation, right from the fibers all the way to the final produced garments, let's say, are verified on the blockchain. So it's something that is stored on the blockchain, and it cannot be changed. And this is what we are doing with Lenzing, and we are proud of our collaboration with Lenzing. And I do have a short video that was actually shot during the Fashion Summit in 2019, just to give you an example of how traceability data can be presented to the end consumers, how you can see the entire chain, the digital traceability of the product starting from the very source, which is the fibers. The video, please.
Thank you, Danny. Very interesting, short, and it does give a very good highlight how technology helps traceability. So last but not least, Peter, and we understand you are still under the pilot of your technologies, and it will become fully commercialized only by 2023. Correct me if I'm wrong. Meanwhile, can you share with us, say, how can these new technologies benefits small, medium-sized enterprise? Because many of the time, high technologies or say things like new innovation is very remote to the SMEs. Would you like to give a perspective? How can they be potentially benefit? If they can't, what's the barrier and what's your recommendation? Thank you.
Great, no, thank you for the question. I think that the opportunities around the circular economy are fantastic, and we're still in the early days and early stages. And you made that mention of trash to treasure. Well, trash is not easy to deal with. It's dispersed in a lot of places. It's not sorted. It's in different states. It's in different conditions. And so like many things with circular economy, I think you have a chicken and egg situation where it doesn't make sense for SMEs to start looking at trash as treasure and figuring out how to collect it and how to get it to technology solutions like ours until that's scaled. But by working together and communicating well, those opportunities start to exist and start to surface as we scale and others scale. And that's just on the actual collection and sorting side. The other interesting thing about that is if there is a solution like ours scaled, then it's worth maybe sorting and looking for that trash to maybe resell. And I think that's a great thing to do for the planet, is to keep a pair of pants as long as possible. And so you may not want to deal with sorting through all those types of textiles, knowing that much of it is not going to be resellable until there's a solution like ours, where the materials that are not resellable can at least get recycled, and you can get money for that. You know, it gets monetized to support those SMEs. So I see tremendous opportunity on the front end of the process, which is that collecting and sorting and aggregating for circular technologies. But then there's many more. After our process, there are the industry partners who are going to convert those raw materials into fibers so they can go back into the beginning of the textile supply chain for their next circular loop. And to facilitate that and to ensure transparency, there's a lot of opportunity here on tracing and tracking, as we've just heard about. And that's a fantastic opportunity and another connection point in the circular economy to ensure that these materials are going down a responsible supply chain, that brands are aware and have full transparency of where this material is going, and ultimately that consumers know what they're buying and have confidence in the brands and the materials that they're wearing. So I think it's early days. As an entrepreneur myself, I see a lot of different opportunities for SMEs to get involved. And to your last point, I think potential barriers are that regulation is here, as was mentioned earlier, in Europe and other places, and is coming. The demand from consumers and the brand targets themselves are going to create demand for more sustainable materials and for circular materials. And so I think for some of the SMEs that don't pay attention to this or choose not to participate, they might find themselves on the wrong side of regulation or on the wrong side of the market dynamics, the market demands that are going to be created by this urgency for our planet and for sustainability. So I'm very bullish and very positive about the opportunity here around the circular economy.
Thank you, Peter, giving this positive vision on the engagement of different sides of enterprise. I'm very happy that I have been receiving answers for those I raised. I have also received multiple questions. Now it's very difficult to choose. I try to group some together so that I can make it more systematic. We are fine with the time. 30 minutes should be fine to cover, if not all, but most. So I try to pick some technical one first. I would like to have Hong, Rex, and Peter, pay attention to this. First one, polyester is still the major fiber and the recycle rate is not high. Any way to improve the sustainability in the future? And one more is also about technical. I group them together, give your feedback, could be general, generic to both, or could be specific. Anything you find relevant to give comment. The other one is on recycled materials, how receptive it is. Is it in the industry when we consider the price point and production scale? How much longer do you estimate for mass production of recycled materials? Let's focus on these two first. I consider these are quite technical. May I invite, say, Hong, Peter, Rex, who would like to come first? Maybe Hong, again, you are always ahead of us of time. So Hong.
So the first question was about
polyester.
how to increase the use of recycled polyester.
To improve the, because the recycle rate is not high. Polyester is still the major fiber, and the recycle rate is not high. So how can we improve its sustainability?
Well, from the Textile Exchange point of view, of course, we have different sustainability standards which accept recycled polyester. So what we've seen in the last year actually is an increase of the certified sites. So there are more sites certified. So that's a good thing. It's just the fibers. From our point, from Textile Exchange, we do see an increase actually in the sites. So I think the technical side, I'll leave it up to the other experts to discuss that.
Thank you. And Peter, any comment, feedback?
Yeah, so, a lot a lot of interesting things are happening with recycled polyester. And you have to think about it, is it in the packaging bottle form or is it in a textile form? And so the 5th largest economy in the world, California, has just passed legislation that's requiring for bottles, for packaging, for bottles to have 50% rPET, recycled PET, by 2030, but they have percentages starting as soon as, I believe, next year, 2025 for sure. And so that's putting more pressure. And so that's where I think a lot of this belief that the markets think there will be shortages coming in the next 4 or 5 years or sooner in recycled polyester is a challenge. And so you're going to have the textile industry and the packaging industry and some other industries competing for those same post-consumer rPET bottles. And so then the challenge is, where else can you get that PET? And that's why I think you need solutions like ours, and there's some others out there, to be able to do fiber to fiber recycling, to be able to pull that PET out of fabric, out of textiles that otherwise were going to incineration or going into landfill, and do it in an economic way, which I think is the second part of your question, so that it can be easily and readily adopted by the industry. And so it's going to take some capital to do that, for sure, just like any industry that's trying to modernize. But I think we have to do it because the costs are unbelievable. I mean, we just had Hurricane Ida run through the United States up to New York and New Jersey, and estimates are that that's $95 billion of damages, right? And so when you put it in that perspective of what the environmental costs are compared to investment costs, and then the jobs and the economic growth that those investments will create, it's a no-brainer that we have to scale these solutions so that we can get more recycled PET and put it back into the economy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And yes, legislation sometimes helps. Hopefully not, but not always it's easy to comply. So, but it helps drive partially sustainability. Thank you. We have a highest rated question, but I would save it later because it's complicated. So let me ask Karin, there's one specific question for you. Do the retailers use U.S. cotton logo on their point of sales, swing text, to educate the consumers?
Yes, is the answer. We have a Cotton USA licensing program. It's global. It can also be used in the US, countries around the world. We simply go through the verification process and see if you're eligible, and then you can use it at retail. And it has meaning for the consumer. We've done a lot of research on what the logo means. Different markets have different reactions. It's becoming more and more associated with transparency and with sustainability. So it does mean something to the consumer, absolutely. It's a trust mark as well. You'll notice on our logo, the wording is the cotton the world trusts. And it is all about trust, isn't it, in our whole industry. And it's not just saying it, it's actually being it and doing it. So, I mean, this is what we are on our trajectory we're trying to do, is to not only build the trust, but maintain the trust on a wider scale as our contribution to the solution for our industry to go in the direction of climate change action.
Thank you. Rex, I didn't mean to skip you earlier in the other question because there's a dedicated one for you. At the beginning of yesterday's, this is for you, at the beginning of yesterday's fashion session, there was a statement that found majority of consumers aren't purchasing into sustainable clothing or actively checking if it is. This really surprised me, the sender, not me. I understand your additional labeling marketing of sustainable fibers are available for retailers to add on. Would the marketing investment and time spent on labeling be best spent in ensuring more sustainable partnership, factories internally in fashion industry, I believe, yeah. So did you attend yesterday's session, by the way?
Sorry.
No. Then, but the statement was a majority of consumers actually aren't purchasing sustainable clothing or don't bother to actively checking it. So how would you see this investment? You know, you spend lots of marketing and investment on this kind of materials. Yeah.
You mean in the consumer level? You see the trend to spend a lot of...
Yeah, I believe so, because it referred to the statement yesterday, but basically it refers to...
Okay.
Because you invest a lot, yeah, in your presentation and you make lots of efforts, but consumer basically may not...
Yes. I think, of course, we spend a lot on those kind of production and invention, but actually it is all about we need to communicate, and also we need to sponsorship to some of the stakeholders and NGO together to work together. I think this is all about the communication, but I want to answer the first question first about the recycling. Even though I skip it, but the recycling, I'm not talking about the recycled polyester, I'm talking about maybe recycled cotton, that kind of thing, how to become scalable. Of course, recycled cotton, we have certain limitation on technical aspect because tenacity, elongation, that kind of thing. I think one of the examples we can say is maybe we can mix that kind of recycled cotton things together with like the wood pulp together to a kind of fiber production. So this is one of the ways we can produce fiber in a very effective and scalable quantity. So this is the one of the answer I can give it to you on a scalable solution.
Thank you. And there's a question for Karin. Carbon footprint and current...
Sorry, there's a question from the floor as well.
Oh, sorry. I focus too much online. Sorry for my prejudice. Yes.
I don't think this is working. This is a question for Ms. Malmstrom, if you will. There's a big gap between, say, the UN...
Sorry, the question is for?
Ms. Malmstrom. There's a big
Karin.
gap between the UN SDG and, say, the Cotton Council mark. And there's a dizzying array of certifications and processes and different licenses to align with sustainability goals. And I use the phrase sustainability goal in a rather wide definition because sustainability, as used by many corporations, spans everything from paying people a living wage to how much water is used in the production of a single cotton ball. Do you have any thoughts on how we can best reduce the amount and array of these to something that's more understandable for someone like me, an ordinary consumer?
Well, that is a great question. I think that's a huge challenge because when you look at all of the initiatives and efforts, you know, it was starting years ago, and it's all with good intentions. And over the years, I've been on committees whose, I guess, it's more like in those days, it was an ideal, the holy grail, and to align the industry so that people don't have to go through this understanding these very, I would say, well, reinventing the wheel, isn't it? I mean, the different standards and this and that. But what I am seeing is that more and more in our industry are aligning with the UN standards. That's my observation. Now, when we say setting goals, so I've just given the basic goals for our industry. Some of them already align with the UN standards. Obviously, there's 17 of them, and some don't apply to us in our industry. But you know, the thing is the intention and the political will, if you will, is there. Everybody wants to reduce the hoops they have to go through for verification. You know, there's just so many different solutions out there. So when I say industry alignment, my dream is to actually have this happen. But how? That's the key. You know, there's many, many associations on many committees, the textile and apparel committees. I mean, we're all trying to go in that direction. Will it take fewer initiatives but more collaboration to systemize, streamline these standards? That might be a solution.
So try to be fair now. On this side, we have a question. Do we have a question on this side? Yeah. If no, then I will pick one from online again, yeah? Anyone? Anyone want to try? No? Then don't blame me. Now I read another one. Okay, so seems to be no question for Danny. I picked this one for you. Okay, let's localize this. So how can we, in Hong Kong, help? You are incorporated in Hong Kong, so I direct these questions to you. I know we have Fashion Summit already, so what can we do further? We have technology share, we have solutions share today, we have best practices, we have different suggestions. So how can we help in Hong Kong, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think I will again build upon what Karin just said. More collaborations are required. More bigger players need to come together. It has to be a collective effort from all the stakeholders within the industry. And that is really what is going to drive the difference in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's not a matter of how can Hong Kong help, because we cannot skip ourselves anyway. So we just need to find a position where can we help is very important. So I really want to follow up those suggestions about collaborations today after this panel. So allow me to have another question talking about, just now Karin was busy, so let me keep another one busy. Lenzing, Rex, why model is synthetic instead of natural fiber as is from tree? I just read it, I don't know what it means. So for Lenzing, why model is synthetic instead of natural, model, sorry. M-O-D-A-L, model, is synthetic instead of natural fiber as is from tree.
I mean, the synthetic means man-made. So I think the correct wording should be man-made cellulose. So I think I can simply answer in this way. Yeah, you can say this is a synthetic fibers because this is a man-made, meant to make the fibers. But it is cellulose. So in correct terms, it's a man-made cellulose. So I think this is more simple to answer.
Thank you.
Model, visco, and lyocell is a man-made cellulose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope Rex answers.
But on top of that, why man-made cellulose is important? Because it is biodegradable and composable. That means you can put it into the soil after use, back to the earth. So I think this is a key message in here.
Okay. So I have one generic question for all because this is the second highest rated question. So listen, everyone. My brand clients won't use much eco fabrics since it's expensive. It won't sell, consumers may not spend the money. So do businesses take the economic hit by using pricey eco fabric or make consumers pay more to help the planet? I think this is a statement, and I would like to ask each of you to give comment. What's your views regarding this observation or feelings from our audience? Again, Hong, would you like to try first? Since you are the one who always assure people to adopt your initiative. Yeah.
I can try first. Actually, I remember maybe 15 years ago, when I first was speaking at the one of the textile conferences in the HKCEC, I asked the audience, how much are you willing to pay more for an organic cotton T-shirt yourself? And I did like an informal poll. So some said 10%, others said 20%. So I think we really have to ask ourselves the question like, okay, as I've seen in all these years, and this is my personal opinion, in all the years, if it comes to organic food, if it comes to things you put in your mouth, people are willing to pay more, no problem. But if it comes to organic clothing or sustainable, or they tend to not being willing to pay more. And of course, I will leave it up to the other panelists, but I think also the discussion should be who, should there be an incentive or should it cost more, and who should pay for it? But I think as consumers ourselves, we should ask ourselves first, like how many sustainable fiber or sustainable material T-shirts do I have in my closet? Or how many white shirts do I have in my closet? Maybe too much already. So I think we start by ourselves first.
Thank you, Hong. And who would like to try next? Maybe Karin, following the usual sequence we have.
Okay.
Make sure we are not missing anyone, yes.
Well, from a cotton perspective, that right now the prices are high, but business is good. We're doing a lot of research on consumer behavior, and we're seeing that they do pay attention more and more to what's in their product, and they're maybe buying less, like less fast fashion, but they want higher quality. And it's going to be with them for a longer time because of the consciousness, the awareness for just the throwaway mentality of, this week it's in fashion, the next week it's out. I think, the consumer, it's going into their psyche. So it's not just frivolous purchases anymore, just like we do not travel frivolously anymore, sadly, but in fact, it's doing some good for the planet. I think people are pushing their reset buttons on their thinking. And I think our industry needs to too. But from a price point, I don't necessarily think that, if it's expensive or perceived so, that they're not going to purchase it.
Thank you. So Rex, would you like to give a comment?
Yeah, I can share with you. Actually, I worked for this industry for many years. When I had the first job, I worked for a kind of a technical sales in North China, very North China. So I promote a kind of green chemicals dye stuff. So when I'm talking about this, the price is higher than normal. The people will say, "Are you crazy? Are you coming for money for that price?" So no way. But now I think the change, I witnessed the change. So people, they are looking for a kind of sustainable solution. I don't know whether you're aware there is a kind of report from McKinsey, a kind of a fashion clothing on about the generation preference. Actually, they are looking for quality, fashion style, and also a kind of sustainability material. So I think the new generation, because they are well educated, so they are really looking for that kind of material, and they would like to spend more. So promote that kind of things, I think is not easy. So one thing we need to ensure the fact and figures. So we need to do the right things. That means we are using the right product, right production, responsible production. This is the thing we need to be ensure. And this is the hard thing we need to make sure. Another thing is about the emotion part. I think through that kind of video, education, and training, we will train up our next generation. So that's why I spend a lot of time, in the past, before pandemic, I would like to go to Hong Kong Polytechnic and DI to talk about something. In the past, I always talk about dye and finishing, but now we talk about the sustainability topics. So I see the change. Yeah.
Thank you. And so maybe lady first, Danny, any comment or feedback you would like to give to this statement or questions? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think I would like to emphasize the role that the pandemic has played in this as well. We all have come to realize, how little we really need to survive. It's almost like a survival question in this pandemic time. What we have seen here in India was really terrible. And it has even highlighted how much we need sustainability incorporated in every field, not just fashion. So of course, I can think of this experiment done by Fashion Revolution where they're talking about buying a t-shirt for $2 and then they play the story of this person who is living in poverty and not getting paid well enough to create a t-shirt. And people are willing to not buy the t-shirt, but donate for that cause. So I think it's more about creating awareness about different aspects of sustainability. So it's not just the people who are making the products getting paid well enough, but also the environmental factors that the fashion industry is creating. So yeah, we need to create more awareness and people are becoming more and more aware. So my perspective is that we need to continue in the same direction, the same trajectory, and we need to put our act together collectively, again, to address this situation.
Thank you. And Peter, your turn, please.
Yeah, and this is so hard. I really, really want to believe that the pandemic has reset our thinking. I'm encouraged a lot by the younger generations, Gen Z in particular, but also I think humans have a very short-term memory, and there's something psychological that's enticing about instant gratification in fashion, and so that's a little scary because that makes it very hard to disrupt that, and I don't know how much more people are really willing to pay, especially for decades we've been used to paying almost the same price for a t-shirt, despite inflation. And so I think, we're in this critical moment where we have to get over that gap so we can have sustainable clothing at a price point that's about the same. And to do that, you really need scale. And so that's tricky. Tesla didn't become so mainstream overnight. And so they had some government incentives. So that could be one area or one way to get to that scale, but it's going to be tricky. But I do believe, though, that when the technology matures and when you have that scale, you're going to be able to compete and be able to get sustainable products at or near parity to virgin. And then the third thing is, maybe we're just thinking about this all wrong. Right? Maybe we really need to disrupt how we buy and sell clothing. Maybe we use a new model where we're just leasing clothing, kind of like they say in the future, nobody's going to own cars. They're going to just call an Uber or have it self-driving and take them somewhere. I wish I coined this phrase. It's from the Rent the Runway founder, but clothing in the cloud, where you're paying a subscription service. So then there's an incentive to build higher quality, more durable clothing. That is designed for circularity, and maybe that's the way you do this in a way that will meet all the sustainability goals, keep the consumers happy, but also keep businesses profitable, because these businesses hire a lot of people around the world and in some of the most poorest countries and provide some living. So this is not easy, and it's a very good question and a tough question. I'm not trying to put water on this enthusiasm for the future, but I think we have to be very honest with ourselves and go into this with eyes wide open in coming up with a solution that can really truly make this sustainable. And what I mean by that is economically sustainable and viable for mass adoption.
Thank you. And being the moderator, I have the advantage to conclude a statement towards these remarks. And I think because we have been shaped for discussion today, we talk about materials. So we invite, say, questions like this, that price, we don't go just for fashion, not just go for materials or fabrics. There are good or bad reasons that takes time to make those new inventions become scalable or adaptable in a cluster or mass scale. So before that, the price may need to be compromised. However, through the collaboration of, say, collective joint action in purchasing, for example, if we all, being buyers, we also can create those needs from retailing industry, for example, it would help manufacturers to share lower cost and benefit from the technologies. This is one way to look at it. However, there are no absolute perfect fabrics can be sustainable and low cost all the time. Every day we have new inventions and we have new definition of hazardous chemicals, for example. So this is a never-ending journey. My observation is we have to take a holistic manner towards fashion sustainability. Otherwise, we will just confine ourselves to look into driving down costs. Maybe one day the fabrics for this could be possible. However, actually, the pricing for marketing is a lot. So, I mean, there's many ways to address the costing, not necessary to, make fabrics or materials become the only shoulder or reasoning of setting up the pricing. It's easier to talk than implement. So, for the benefit of time of everyone, we still have 5 minutes. Allow me to conclude our Q&A session here by offering all of you one question. Can our organizer please show the last question we have prepared for you? So scan the QR code, and then you will see the question. Fashion Summit is a beauty platform, that we can benefit from each other, but we don't want to make this a one-off discussion. We want to drop you a question, and after today, we can generate actions. Let me read out while you're scanning the QR code. This was an idea generated from Karin's suggestion during our conversation. We want to generate actions. How? We ask you a question. If our panelists here and other stakeholders want to explore potential collaborations on making sustainable fashion materials become possible, what would be the topic you think we should focus on as top priority? Please choose 2 out of the 4. Innovative materials for industry-wide adoption. Number 2, technologies for fashion materials transparency. Number 3, circular fashion best practices. Number 4, whatever you like to suggest. Please pick 2, otherwise, I know diversity is good, however, we are talking about priority. So we need to pick the majority you pick as priority to follow up the issues. And hopefully, our offline discussion can become another theme of panel discussion in the next Fashion Summit. So can we have the answer from you? Maybe I give you 30 more seconds. I see all of you are looking at your mobile phone. That means you're reading. Oh, some have finished already. Thank you. Finished. Thank you. Okay. So can I have countdown? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0, -1. Okay, close. And Wendy, are we showing the answer? Thank you. I'm really glad to see all the audience are still sitting in the room, because it is 90 minutes, for some busy people, is a luxury. We don't take it for granted. We have face-to-face meeting and also can engage our overseas partners. While we are waiting for the results, I just want to invite all of you to give another round of applause to our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Their sharing of insights is more than a decade or generation of efforts. We have the advantage, and thank you for the organizer, Sita, giving us the advantage to be here to share those insights. As I said, shorten the journey of painful experience. Fashion materials is only one of the topics. Today, time is limited. Fashion materials do not confine to fabrics. Metals, plastics are all related. So, and I hope next time we can have a broader approach to discuss our different materials, say how can we go sustainable together. We have 1 minute left. Is the result ready to be shown? Not yet. They say we can't show the result. Okay. I was told we could. So it would become non-transparent. Hopefully we can quote the results at least after in some way, one way or the other, in the, say, the recap of discussion from the organizer. I highly recommend it. And we are happy to engage you if you can reach out to the organizer. You want to join our panels to have some offline dialogue. How can we, for example, address the question you raised, drive down cost, increase adoption, increase innovation of, in transparency, track and tracing, usability of those new technologies. You're all welcome to join us. Now, without further comment, I would like to thank you, every one of you. Now, Hong, you can enjoy tea break. We can enjoy lunch.
Thank you.
You can enjoy and brunch, Danny, and you can enjoy sleep, Peter. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.